The first step to being a master of punching people in the face is to get yourself a character that no one in their right mind would want to make angry. After you've perfected this and come to the all-important manhood section, I'd recommend going option 1 for that extra protection and small for balance. When you get to attributes, you'll want to be maxing body and cool while putting the rest into reflexes. The other 2 are for dumb nerds and are therefore useless to a big chat like yourself. The last thing you'll want to do is pick either street kid or nomad because you're not some perfectly manicured corpo punk. When you get thrown out into the world after the prologue, you might be tempted to use that pent-up rage to start punching everyone you see, but as Heath Ledger's Joker says, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Instead of going to story missions, you'll instead want to be doing a fuck ton of gigs, as instead of being rewarded with carefully curated stories, you'll instead be given cold hard eddies. To travel around Night City, you might be tempted to buy a vehicle from a friendly neighborhood fixer, but buying cars is for chumps. Simply go to this marker on the map and claim this perfectly good car that some idiot just left lying around. When you get a bit better at punching people, you can work through the side job called Beat on the Brat, which you can get from Coach Fred near your apartment. Simply punch enough people and you'll eventually fight a guy who's just begging to lose his ride in a fight. This is the kind of car for someone who likes punching people. As you're essentially a gym junkie with an addiction to murdering people, it's unsurprising that your biggest expense is to improve your own body. They say you can't put a price on perfection, but that's absolute bullshit, because with your endgame build with all augmentations, it comes to a grand total of something just short of 500,000 eddies. This might seem like a lot at first. However, when you consider that a top tier weapon from a gun shop will sell for over 100,000, reaching peak physical performance becomes far more within reach. The good news is that you can just sell all weapons you happen to pick up from lesser specimens during your playthrough, as bullets are for people who are just compensating for a weak left jab. The more people you punch, the more money you'll have to make your punch hurt more. However, if you're an impatient little Vegemite, then you can always try this one little trick that fixers don't want you to know about. Simply go to this location on the map, buy every last fucking drop of canned beverage that you can afford, break it all down into scrap, then sell that shit at one of the many deposit boxes scattered throughout the city. If you need the drinks to refill, simply cut a fat lap around the block and come back. And if you need the deposit boxes to have more cash, just wait 24 hours and milk those fuckers dry. The bread and butter of the punchy boy playstyle is the monkey arms, which will set you back around 100,000, but will scale to your level throughout your entire playthrough. Once you come out of the Hayward Ripper dock with these bad boys, you can rest easy knowing that you've just made the best investment of your Night City life. Unfortunately, you won't be getting your hands on these until Street Cred 45, but just substitute it for the generic brand stuff until the vendors deem you swagger enough for you to give them a small fucking fortune. Although the monkey arms don't have any specific attribute requirement to equip, most of the other cyberware absolutely does, which is why leveling up that body stat is going to be extra important for this playthrough. However, if you ignore all the other attributes entirely, you'll be able to get there in no time. Starting with the circulatory system, you'll want to get yourself the adrenaline booster and biomonitor, which will restore half your stamina after every kill and restore all of your health if it somehow drops below 15%. You'll eventually want to get yourself a second heart, which is just a self-revive on a 2-minute cooldown, but this will probably be your late game purchase, because you'll need a street cred of 49 to get it installed. Down to the immune system, many of these augmentations will need to wait until your cool attribute is high enough, at which case, equipping shock and/or is a fine addition to your collection. For the integumentary system, you'll want the supradermal weave, the heat converter, and the subdermal armor, which will give you complete immunity to both bleeding and fire damage, as well as increase your overall armor rating by a very scientific metric fuck ton. Instead of a dumb nerd cyber deck, you'll instead want to buy the Zeta Tech Berserk operating system, which will let your monkey arms work even harder and give you 10 seconds where you take less damage, hit harder, gain health for each kill, and of course, the almighty ability to do superhero landings. Pair this with the fortified ankles for your leg cyberware, and you'll be literally stomping any enemy who looks at you the wrong way. Alternatively, you can go with the arguably more effective Cyberviston, which slows down time to a near standstill and lets you sucker punch entire gangs before they even realize they've looked at you the wrong way. The next part might be a bit spooky because it involves your skeleton, but getting the synaptic signal optimizer for 60% more health is a fucking godsend. The last 3 augments will be endgame shit because they require a high reflex level to obtain, these being micro rotors for faster punching, neofiber for increased evasion, and synaptic accelerator for more time to punch enemies at the start of combat. If you really can't wait, you can always just get the lesser versions of these augmentations, which don't have quite as high of a reflex requirement. Players adopting this playstyle should ignore the hands and ocular system entirely because you won't be using guns and you don't need to see people better in order to punch them in the face. The frontal cortex should also be ignored because you're not a big fucking nerd. Unlike augmentations, the perk system is very much based more around stat boosts more than anything else, so we won't cover this too much in depth. The body perks especially are super fucking straightforward, but viewers can feel free to pause here if they really wanted to see what I chose. The best rule of thumb is to go with whatever you feel is lacking in your combat experience, and remember that many of the early perks are often some of the strongest. As for the cool attribute, you'll want to be doubling down on that cold blood perk tree, as it will just make you bigger, better, faster, stronger. This is especially true if you're able to chain multiple kills at once. The endgame attributes should go into reflexes, which although won't be very helpful with offering relevant perks, will allow you to be much faster in combat and unlock those last few pieces of cyberware. The last consideration is your clothing, and the simple answer to what you should wear is to equip whatever gives you the most protection. As everyone knows, your fashion sense is on a need to know basis, and your enemies don't fucking need to know. By this point, you'll now have a punch with the force of 1,000 tigers, a fuck off enormous health pool that will completely regenerate twice if enemies somehow manage to chip it down, and in most fights, you'll usually be coming out with more health than you started without using a single bit of medical equipment. You can run faster than most cars, punch harder than anyone else, and finally become the perfect specimen you've always dreamed you could be. Congratulations on now becoming the biggest Giga Chad in Night City, with the ability to mow through elite soldiers and gang members with only your fists, and sheer determination to fill an entire bathtub of collected human teeth. Subscribe to see more intellectual guides from a glorified news channel. But until next time, have fun, and embrace the bullshit.
Not this bankrupt rock and roll. Seems the best in the top. Riding how my slots are shot.